So as I read this first problem, of course, I want to circle, star, highlight, underline things. And so I notice the 75%, and since that came from national numbers, I would consider that to be the population value. And then I note my favorite words, random sample of 100, so my N is 100. And then found 68 answered yes. And as I read a little bit more, I see that the question is good evidence about the proportion, so the true population proportion. And I also note that I have a significance level, so this would be my alpha of 0.05. So now going back to that 68, so 68 in the survey, but I surveyed 100, so my p hat will be 68 out of the 100, or 0.68. So now as I do my hypothesis test, I'm going to have, of course, a null and alternative. The null is that we're not different from the national average, meaning that our proportion should be 0.75. And the alternative, since it says different from, that would of course be a not equal to. And then I have to fill in the words. So for the null, the proportion of all employees who say work has a negative impact is the same as national average, in other words 75%. And the alternative is that it's different from national average, in other words not 75%. Now, the name of this test, we are doing one sample, but it's not a t-test because our proportions use z. Ooh, and actually we don't even call it sample. This will help you keep straight the difference between means and proportions. We call it one proportion, or one prop for short, z test. So you could call it one prop z test. I know it saves you from writing out, what, 6 more letters, 7 more letters. Okay, and then I have to check my conditions. And so SRS, well, of course it says random sample. And independence, in order to preserve that probability, we have to assume that the population of all workers is greater than or equal to 10 times 100, so greater than 1,000. And then we're going to check n times p naught greater than or equal to 10, and n times 1 minus p naught. So my n was 100, and my p naught was 0.75. That's definitely greater than or equal to 10. And so is the other version. So remember, my formula is sample minus the claim over the standard deviation of the claim. That's why we're using the not. And so when I plug in of 0.68 minus 0.75 over 0.75, 0.25, and 100, which equals negative 1.617. Now remember, this is a z, so I can now go look up in my z chart. Again, I want to make a picture of it. So this is mu of p hat, which is the same as p, and then the standard deviation for p hat is that standard deviation we had on the bottom. And my particular p hat, 0.68, is on the left. And I would be shading everything to the left as well as stuff on the right that matches, because our alternative was that it's not 0.75. So this is a two-sided test. And of course, I can use my calculator and do, so for this area over here, I can do normal CDF. I could always look it up in the table as well. Negative infinity to negative 1.617, comma 0, comma 1, because I am doing a standard normal. And that's going to get me a 0.05, but that's just for the left. So I have to double it for the right, so that my p-value